Hello, fellow Voyagers. Jess here with Odyssey Human, here today to talk about, are the stories you tell dead or alive? Welcome to the channel. This is the place where we help you hack through the jungles of consciousness so that you can discover the hidden treasures inside of you. My friends, it's all there as potential waiting for you to activate it. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe. We'd love to have you on the channel. The channel continues to grow. We're so grateful to all of you out there for watching. Thank you. And commenting. Been getting more comments lately. I really appreciate that. And I respond to all of them. So I want to talk about the power of storytelling today. How do we make meaning? We are meaning generating machines, and we generate meaning through our stories, through the words that we use, through the tales that we spin about our life. And so I want to ask you, are the stories that you're telling, are they dead or alive? Are they dead or alive? What do I mean by this? I mean, is your story, the story you're telling, in service to a reality, what you're seeing in 3D, what you're seeing in the 3D, and you're just describing it? And when you describe it, it feels crappy. Or are you telling a story that feels inspiring and alive and creative and imaginative? Right? You'll see this in kids. If you get kids to tell you a story, you can see it in their eyes. And really, you can see it in anybody's eyes when they're telling you a story. When they're describing something to you, you can see their emotional reaction to it. It is written all over their face. It's in their body language. It's in the tone of their voice. And so you can tell. It's easy as an observer. And I go out in the world all the time. I'm constantly networking and talking to people. I'm always just observing their storytelling. And I want to turn the mirror today and ask you, are the stories you are telling dead or alive? Everything is imagination. All of our experiences are imaginative. Even what we think is what we're perceiving in 3D physical reality, we're still putting this gloss of meaning over it, right? We're still looking at that element that the 3D handed us and then spinning a story around it. We're putting this cocoon of meaning around it and wrapping it up like a spider. Right? We're putting all this meaning on it. And that meaning is what we are reacting to. That's part of our emotional reaction, is the meaning that we're giving something, the frame that we're giving it. And so who is your story serving? Think about, and I'm just talking about, like, if I were to tell you, or ask you, describe your career situation right now to me. You would tell me a story, right? You would start to tell me a story. It would just kind of flow out of you. Most of the time it's very like, we just like, it just comes out of us. And so do your stories, do those descriptions of where you're at with each of the core focus areas of your life, your career, your love life, your friends, your spiritual satisfaction, your finances, the stories that you tell about these areas of your life. Do they make you happy or sad? Do they make you happy or sad? And I encourage you to tell more happy stories. Tell more happy stories. Because the difference between a dead story and an alive story, and I think I glossed right over the part about the kids, but let's go back to the kids example. When you ask a child to tell you what's happening in their life, an alive story for them is one where, it's going along and then suddenly there's a dragon involved. And you can see that child's face like light up, and they're like, it's probably something very boring that they threw the dragon in just for a little bit of excitement. Meanwhile, when they're complaining about something, or they're mopey, or they're telling a dead story, right? That story has no life. It has no juice in it. It has no depth. And so this is, to me, is what alive versus dead stories are. Are the stories you're telling making you happy or sad? Are they making you happy or sad? Because they're either dead or they're alive. They're either describing something that has already happened through your imagination, right? In the linear time frame. That a dead story is, we're just describing what has already we've imagined, it has come through our experience, it's filtered through our senses, and now we're just putting that back, that carcass, right back into the pipeline with our words. Because our words are how we create. This is how our imagination generates itself, right? We use the structure of storytelling as human beings. And so, storytelling. So then what is an alive story? An alive story to me, it feels almost like a tall tale. It feels like a tall tale where I'm the hero of the story. I'm telling this tall tale and I'm speaking a reality into creation. I am literally describing something epic that when I tell it, it makes me light up. It makes me light up. I do this all the time. I'm really good about this naturally. But I wasn't, I had reserved myself when I was younger, and I kind of want to delineate these two times in my life for you in order to help you tell more tall tales. Because I think we're afraid of the social accountability. This was one of my biggest fears of, what if I say I'm going to go do this thing and then I can't deliver on it? I can't go do it. And at some point when I started this YouTube channel, I felt that way. I was like, what if I call myself an emotional mastery expert and I'm not actually that? People are going to see right through me. But what I found was that continuously telling that story is that I rose to the occasion. I became that, because when we tell our stories, we're not just describing something. We're literally using sound and words and language to create meaning. And we're literally generating through language a visualization of the promise of where we're going. And that's why I think stretching, it should feel like a little bit of a stretch when you tell your story of like, this is going to happen and it's going to be epic and it's going to be amazing. And it feels like it's just outside your reach and you're traveling there. It actually, the story not only draws other people when it's a big, epic, exciting, visionary story, but it inspires you. Because it's not just other people listening to your story. It's also your mind, your subconscious mind, your body, right? All of you is listening to the story that you're telling in this area of your life. Or about yourself on the whole. Like, you want to talk about self-concept? That's just, what's your story about yourself? What is your story about yourself? So, people start to obey. When they hear the story enough, like they believe you. They're like, okay, you're going to go do this. So does your mind and your body. They're like, okay, we're going to go do this. Like, this is real. And you literally, by telling your story, you live up to it. You live up to your story. And it was only in starting this YouTube channel and having the social accountability of, I wanted to be what I proclaimed to be. I wanted to be that. And when you look back on this channel, I mean, wow, from where I was to, then, I think it's been 4 years, this channel, to where I am now, I lived up to that. Like, I literally became it. And it wasn't a trying. It was just this is who I am. And I'm going to keep proclaiming myself as this, because this is who I believe myself to be. And maybe, other people might look at me and not say that, or like, who cares? Who cares? Because I really believe, this is how we get imagination to really start working for us, is we tell epic stories about ourselves. Tell epic stories. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Because so often when we say we don't have something, and I made a video last week about 10 sneaky ways that we strip ourselves of our own power, but storytelling is one of them. And the first one I started out with, the first two were saying, I don't have it, right? That's a dead story. I don't have it. It's not here. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting on time. It's going to happen eventually, right? It's here now. It's here now. And if we think we're being so reasonable and logical and realistic. But those three things, being logical, being realistic, being reasonable, are all imaginative. They're all imaginative. They're not an objective state out there in the world. They are parameters that we have set for ourselves using our imagination that we try to live up to and try to adhere to and judge against, but really it's imagination. So start living and telling and breathing life into the stories that you want to live. Tell the happy, exciting, inspiring stories. When I go out and network, I tell people I am about to disrupt my industry. I'm about to disrupt my industry. I'm about to flip it on its head. When I lived in my van, before it even happened, I started telling people about it a year in advance. They honestly got tired of my story about how I was going to live in a van. But I kept telling it because that, to me, was what I was becoming. I was becoming that person who was going to live in a van. And I did successfully for a few years. And so tell these stories. Tell the stories that make you happy. Tell the stories of who you are. Tell the stories of who you are. And that means the things that you want, that you keep at a distance, that you say, well, I want this, but it's not here yet. And no. Tell the story that it's here and it's yours. You are that person. Tell it now. Tell it now. Even if it's just to yourself in your own head, tell it now. Because it's true now. Because everything emanates from inside out, from imagination out. And storytelling is how we activate imagination. It's how we activate our vision. It's how we self-persuade to live up to the person that we are becoming, right? It becomes normal. We tell that story and then it normalizes, and then that's true. That's what it is. And then all of a sudden on my YouTube channel, I was an emotional expert. So much so that I stopped being highly sensitive and stopped making videos about it, as you know, and I was like, what else do I want to be? All right, I want to be an expert on manifesting. And so I changed my story even about this channel. You could see it. You can go back and literally look at the progression on my channel of how I changed just using story. So are your stories alive or dead? Remember, if they're dead, it's just old stuff that you already have seen that you're throwing back into the mix. Tell a story that when you tell it, it not only inspires the people around you and they're like, whoa, that's so cool. You're going to do that, or you're doing it, or how are you doing this? But then when you tell it, it inspires you too, that your face lights up, that when you share your vision and bring it into the here and now, it inspires others and it inspires you. I do this all the time. I make huge claims all the time in my personal life, in my professional life. I will call things out and say, this is what's going to happen, or it's happening now. And I'm predicting it or whatever, however you want to frame it. Bring it into the here and now, live it now, live up to it, live into it, because this is how your imagination, to me, it's one of the first ways like imagination begins to emanate is through storytelling, is through meaning, is through the character that we make ourselves in our own story. We live into that role. Right? We live into it. We live up to it. We live of it. We live of that story. So, I have a good one for you. My last challenge for you. I would really love, and this comes down to complaining. So this all applies to complaining, because when we're complaining, we're telling a dead story. That's why it feels so bad to complain. We never feel good after complaining. It always feels like, I just feel gross, like you gotta shake it off. Try a complaining detox. I did this once. It was really interesting. It was really, really interesting. And it made me realize how much people use complaining as a social bonding mechanism. So complaining to me is telling a dead story. So try not complaining for a day or a few days or even a week and see what happens. See what happens. See what happens. Instead, talking about the perfect version of things, right? Ignoring what's happening now, ignoring the circumstance, and not paying it homage with your words. speak something different into being. Talk about it as if it's already the way you want, as if it's already changed, as if things are good. And try it out and see what happens, and do a complaining detox. And let me know what happens below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them below. I'm happy to engage with you. As always, I have a free tool in the description box to help you recondition your entire emotional response, recondition your mind, make it a safer, more welcoming, wonderful place. Give yourself some self-love. So check that out below. It's always in my description box. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.